The morning light filtered through the stained glass window by our front door, casting a kaleidoscope of purples and yellows across the foyer. It was a strangely vibrant pattern, almost mocking the chaos unfolding just steps away. My husband, Richard, lay sprawled on the living room floor, his breath shallow and ragged, his eyes fluttering half open. Sweat beaded on his forehead, trickling down his temples, while his left arm twitched violently, as if it had a mind of its own. In our 26 years together, I'd never heard the guttural, primal sounds that rasped from his throat that day. My name is Eleanor, and in that moment, I knew this wasn't the occasional heartburn he'd brushed off with a laugh. This was something monstrous, something deadly. I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911, my hands trembling as I watched him writhe. The operator's voice was calm, too calm, telling me to monitor his breathing and stay steady until the ambulance arrived. "He's having chest pains," I choked out, "really bad ones." I could hear the sirens already, a faint wail growing louder, and relief bloomed in my chest like a fragile flower. Help was coming. But then, the world tilted into a nightmare I couldn't have scripted. The ambulance screeched to a stop outside, red lights flashing through the curtains. 2 paramedics leapt out, gear in hand, and bolted toward our porch, only to freeze dead in their tracks. I flung the door open, screaming for them to hurry, but they didn't move. At first, I thought something sinister loomed behind me, some unseen threat holding them back. Then I saw her. Essex County, New Jersey's Beatrice Thornton, the newly minted president of the Willow Creek HOA, stood squarely between the paramedics and my doorstep, clutching a piece of paper like it was a royal decree. She tapped it with a manicured finger, her posture rigid, her voice cutting through the air as I yelled, "He's having a heart attack. Get in here now." The taller paramedic, his badge glinting with the name Daniels, stared at me, his face a mask of bewilderment tinged with dread. He glanced from Beatrice's paper to the stretcher behind him and called out, "Ma'am, we're being told we can't enter without official HOA clearance." His words sounded absurd, like a line from a bad movie, and I almost laughed, thinking it was a sick joke. I waved them in again, desperation clawing in my throat, but Beatrice's voice sliced through once more. "This property is under an access dispute," she declared, prim and unyielding, like a schoolmarm scolding a child. "You're not permitted here until it's resolved. These are the rules." My husband was dying, his face flushed and contorted, his lips turning a faint purple, and this woman was preaching about rules. I screamed back, "He's dying, for God's sake," and lunged forward, ready to drag the paramedics inside by their collars if I had to. But Beatrice thrust that paper in my path, HOA Bylaw 17C, a cryptic little regulation buried in the fine print of meetings no one attended. It claimed that due to an unresolved dispute over our overgrown hedges and a stack of unpaid fines, the HOA could bar unauthorized personnel from our property. Never in my wildest dreams had I imagined a rule could stop paramedics from saving a life. Yet here it was, a bureaucratic monster wielded with chilling precision. Richard and I would have fought it ages ago if we'd known, but it slithered into existence without a whisper of warning. Seconds bled into minutes. One paramedic retreated to the ambulance, presumably radioing for guidance, while I stood there helpless, watching Richard fade. Weren't there laws to override this insanity? Didn't emergency responders have carte blanche to act? Apparently not when the HOA threatened lawsuits for trespassing on encumbered property. The paramedics wavered, caught in an illegal quagmire, their jobs on the line. I couldn't process it. My husband needed oxygen, not a debate with a clipboard-wielding tyrant. It was a surreal standoff, an ambulance idling, 2 paramedics paralyzed, and Beatrice Thornton immovable as stone, while my cries ricocheted off the porch. I dropped beside Richard, pressing my palm into his chest, mimicking the CPR I'd seen in a long-forgotten class. I wasn't trained, but I had to do something, keep his airway open, keep him with me. His lips were fully purple now, his gasps weaker. Then, a miracle. The taller paramedic, Daniels muttered, "Screw this," and shoved past Beatrice. His partner followed, ignoring her shrill threats to call the police. "Call whoever you want," I shrieked, my voice raw and unrecognizable. "Just save him." They slapped an oxygen mask over Richard's face, started compressions, and hoisted him onto a stretcher. I clung to hope as they worked, convincing myself they'd fix him now that they were here. But at the hospital, hope crumbled. Richard went into full cardiac arrest on the operating table and was gone within the hour. I didn't cry then, not yet. The world felt brittle, hollowed out, and all I could see was Beatrice's smug face, as if Richard's life was just another agenda item she checked off. In the aftermath, the silence in our home was deafening. Every corner held a memory, a whisper of Richard's presence. The police investigation was swift and brutal. The HOA's bylaw 17C, once a cryptic phrase, became a symbol of bureaucratic cruelty. The paramedics' body cam footage, the 911 call, and my tearful testimony painted a clear picture of negligence and obstruction. The community, initially divided, rallied behind me. Protests erupted outside Beatrice's home, demanding justice. The trial was a media circus. Beatrice, flanked by her high-powered lawyer, maintained her innocence, claiming she was merely upholding the rules. But the prosecution presented a damning case, highlighting the absurdity of a bylaw that could override basic human compassion. The jury, after days of deliberation, found Beatrice Thornton guilty of manslaughter. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and grief. The judge's sentencing was a somber affair. He spoke of the sanctity of life and the dangers of unchecked power. Beatrice was sentenced to 10 years in prison, a stark reminder that rules without reason are nothing more than instruments of oppression. The HOA, stripped of its authority, was dissolved. New bylaws were enacted, ensuring that emergency services would never again be hindered by bureaucratic red tape. In the years that followed, Willow Creek became a symbol of change. A memorial garden was built in Richard's name, a place of peace and reflection. I dedicated my life to advocating for patients' rights, ensuring that no one would suffer as Richard did. The morning light still filtered through the stained glass, but the colors no longer mocked. They reminded me of the fight, the loss, and the hard-won justice. And though the pain never fully subsided, I found solace in knowing that Richard's death had sparked a movement, a beacon of hope in a world too often shrouded in darkness.